Hello everyone, I'm Tim Higgins, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about living well at UCSF. An overview of the program: it's a UC-wide wellness initiative that covers several different pillars of wellness, ranging from mental, physical, social, and cultural. And it ultimately seeks to empower people to lead healthier and more productive lives. And it seeks to do that through different creative and innovative programs, both on campus and online. The specific aim of my study is to evaluate and to determine how much the staff of UCSF benefit from the available wellness programs, in particular the Red Brick Health Profiling online program. My formal research question is: for staff at the new UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital, as compared to staff at UCSF's Moffitt Hospital, has the Red Brick Health Assessment and consultation led to a change in waist circumference or body mass index? And to speak to the program goals, UC Living Well is a UC-wide system, and it's a system-wide initiative, and it's broken down into 3 different segments. A campus and health system program, which are more on-site, on-campus health plans, such as preventative exams, the management of diabetes, high cholesterol, and stress. And the one that's the core focus of this evaluation are different online resources, namely the Total Health Profile that's offered by Red Brick Health. This evaluation will focus on the impact of the Red Brick Health Plan and how this program affects certain physical outcome measures, namely waist circumference and BMI. The study evaluation will go over the 2016 calendar year. It will require bi-monthly outcome measures that will be self-recorded by staff at UCSF and at UCSF's Benioff and Moffitt campuses to evaluate the efficacy and impact of the Red Brick Health program. To go over the Red Brick Health program in more detail, I want to focus on the online health assessment. Essentially, it's a single engaging, rewarding, and integrative platform. And by that I mean a single engaging, it's one person sitting on a computer at a time. It's rewarding in that there is a financial incentive. And it's integrative in that there is a PCP, a primary care physician, that coaches you along the way. It's not strictly you and a website with pre-recorded videos. There are resources like that, but it goes well beyond that. In order to kind of engage in the roadmap that they have laid out, the first step is to complete an online health assessment. And after completing that first step, a $250 rewards incentive is deposited into your health savings account. The following is to complete a next steps, as it's phrased, phone consultation with the primary care physician, and completion of that milestone leads to a $100 rewards incentive again in your health savings account. And the third action-oriented step is to complete a healthy family activity, and that leads to another $150 towards your health savings account. The final score that comes from the Red Brick Health Assessment is really helpful. Not only is it peer group specific, so everyone within the UCSF system who is sitting this same health assessment would receive a score on the same bell curve. So you have an understanding as to people who are from the same geographic area, from the same place of work, who experience similar work situations as yourself and living situations to yourself, how you kind of rank in the different bucketed areas of physical activity, health status, weight, cardiovascular risk, and it runs the gamut. These different categories are broken down by strengths, what to watch out for, and what are potential risks. Those things that have been cited as things to watch out for or risks would be discussed with the primary care physician, and they would direct you to a variety of resources or programs or support depending on your need and your desire to change. I think it's also of note to point out that there is a numerical score, and not only is it good to see where you are in reference to the rest of your peer group, but it's also useful to understand year to year as you take this test what sort of progress goes on. And a numerical score, though it is a rolled up score, can give you a frame of reference as to if there is progress holistically in your health. Again, the health evaluation covers many different categories, from tobacco use to blood pressure to cardiovascular disease risk and everything in between. In this specific evaluation, I've decided to drill down into weight loss, strictly because it seemed to be the easiest thing to quantify with the least amount of work. And by that I mean the two outcome measures that I'm going to go into detail about later. They require the participant to make measures on themselves, both in determining their waist circumference and their BMI based on their weight and height. These are measures that can be inputted and calculated and then recorded. They don't necessarily require another consultation or hospital or a clinical visit. It could be all done in the comfort of your own home. One major assumption that I wanted to call out in this evaluation is that I've assumed that only UCSF staff and faculty at the new Benioff Children's Hospital will receive the intervention. The UCSF Medical Center spans multiple campuses. I chose the newest, the Benioff Children's Hospital, and the oldest in Moffitt, which is on Parnassus. Though one is a children's hospital and the other isn't, and there is different staff across these facilities, I thought it was the easiest break in keeping to the same health system, the same geographical area, the same working conditions as best as can be replicated, so that the new system, you predict in an ideal case, might roll out different programs. I'm proposing in this evaluation that it would be rolled out at the new hospital, so that before the Red Brick program were rolled out elsewhere, we could have effective evaluative measures to say whether or not it's worth the investment to roll out to the other hospitals in the area. So again, the rationale is to have two campuses that can serve as a control and as an intervention. The physical well-being outcome measures will be, again, waist circumference and body mass index. They'll be taken bi-monthly, starting in January 2016 as baseline, and then through to the end of December 2016. Some of the theoretical constructs, I've chosen to focus on the health belief model. And this model focuses on the perceived threat of disease and how that impacts the net benefit of change behavior, and ultimately how someone will adopt a behavioral change. Some of the modifying variables that this intervention would create would be an education level increase. Granted, anyone in a medical center is highly educated. I don't mean to speak to that. I mean more about education that will prompt change, particularly around obesity and physical fitness and wellness. Though they might have extensive knowledge in their specific field or subspecialty, the knowledge required to make an impactful change to your lifestyle is different. And that, along with a community of people who are going through the same sort of circumstances, that peer group, that reference standard, can hopefully keep everyone accountable and push towards a better end, a better outcome. Perceived susceptibility and seriousness. The health assessment is hopefully the first stop towards understanding the susceptibility or the seriousness or the potential threat for such things as cardiovascular disease or health problems or long-term potential consequences of these precursors. Self-efficacy, the successful follow-through, the support, and the accountability that this program offers is a major benefit to some hopefully long-term health-promoting behavior. Cues to action. Some of the primary triggers that we've used are the incentive to through the health savings account. We think that that might be necessary for prompting engagement in the program, and was deeply embedded in how this intervention was staged. My study design is a pre-interventional survey, which would be sent to the UCSF staff. And along with that would be brochures about the Living Well at UCSF program. It would be a prospective cross-sectional study involving pre- and post-testing. Those receiving the intervention, specifically the red brick health assessment, would then have self-recorded waist circumference and BMI measurements at baseline, and then bi-monthly for the remainder of 2016. So again, baseline, intervention, and then a final follow-up. And recording of outcome measures would look something along these lines. I don't know if paired data would make a big difference in the analysis, but at least those who are at Benioff experiencing the intervention would be more inclined, I would believe, to take bi-monthly measurements, whereas someone in the controlled group, we'd hope to have some sort of measurements even for those who are not involved in the intervention, so that we could understand if there are just normal fluctuations during a calendar year in these two different populations, or if they do actually differ, and that it can be associated with the use of this red brick program. The study population based on the sample size calculator for population mean, knowing that the size of UCSF's campus is roughly 7,000 people, plus minus 500. The final sample required was roughly 77 UCSF faculty and staff. Statistical and qualitative analyses. The first analysis would be to evaluate the red brick health assessment intervention on physical wellness. This would be carried out through the use of a two-sample t-test comparing the mean body mass index and the waist circumference of the two populations. Again, the intervention group at Benioff and the control group at Moffitt. The second analysis would be an interpretation of participation rates in the red brick health assessment. So those that actually created an account online, went to the site, completed both the assessment, the primary care call, and then the subsequent action tied to it, and received all of those financial benefits for completion. See the amount of or the level of participation in those programs, and see if they had an impact. The third stage would be to do a qualitative information follow-up info. That would follow an interview. We'd follow up with the students, staff, and other employees to figure out what gaps, who was being met, how they were met, and what sort of things would need to be done to remediate those gaps. Along with that, the UCSF MyCharts and medical records, we could understand the education level, where these people work in the campus, their specific job titles, and stratify those outcomes so that we can understand what populations are being met, which ones are unmet, and what are some of the weaknesses of red brick, and at least how that information is funneling out through the entire campus. So some of the summative evaluation, the intervention goals would be to identify informative outcome measures that span multiple areas of wellness evaluation. Again, waist circumference and BMI come top of mind simply because they would be easy to measure. Simple videos through the same red brick platform could teach participants how to take those measurements themselves and then record them so that they could be interpreted for the evaluation down the line. We want to make sure that red brick is efficacious, so that would be a major goal of all of this. Again, we want to judge if the value proposition for red brick holds. So essentially, we're using this intervention, we're partnering with red brick in order to determine if it is another way to reach the students and staff and other employees at UCSF. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to continue funding this program? And then ultimately, do we need to discern whether or not red brick meets the population's needs? Are they involved? Is there an outcome? Is this what they want? Does the population, do these employees at UCSF, do they want this sort of information? Is this something that they desire when it is made available? And determine the value behind the red brick intervention. The outcome evaluation, testing participants before and after the intervention. Again, we've listed the two different outcome measures. Post-intervention interviews with participants, we want to figure out what those gaps are. And also tracking the number of accesses to red brick resources will help us determine how well it was implemented the implementation of this new system across the UCSF system. The resources may be great, but the implementation may have been poor. That might be something to determine and also fix if the case may be. Limitations and alternatives. So there may be too few participants. It is a new technology. It's kind of a new way of approaching health. There may be too few people participating in the program, and therefore it'd be hard to calculate meaningful odds ratios, do useful statistics if the N is too small. The financial incentive, many physicians and some of the highly trained doctors may not see a $500 health savings account incentive to be reason enough to sit down in front of their computer for hours and call another primary care physician in order to get advice that they think they might already know. And so maybe the incentive needs to be larger. Maybe there needs to be another way to appeal to people who have very little time on their hands. Maybe that's something that would be evaluated in the future. Because I propose a reliance on measurement of the outcome variables by the participants, there is the possibility of inaccurate measurement of outcome variables, which could lead to a misinterpretation or inconclusive results that would need to be seen out. A true control group in the evaluation that I proposed, it's essentially a pseudo study. There wouldn't be a chance where you would not unroll a certain program across certain parts of the campus, particularly if they are online. So if there was another way to maybe talk to or coordinate an intervention maybe with another teaching hospital like Stanford down the way to see if one intervention at UCSF is comparable to another major teaching hospital in the Bay Area, that might be useful as well. Additional outcome measures. The two that I chose seems to be the easiest to implement, but if additional outcome measures were thrown into the mix, the first ones that came to mind were a full blood panel, which could help have create a more holistic picture of the interventions and the wellness. And then another outcome measure would be cholesterol and blood pressure. These sorts of numbers are really helpful in determining where people stand from a wellness perspective. And that's it. Thank you so much. It's a UC-wide initiative. It's a UC-wide initiative. It's a UC-wide initiative. We've done various things.